Hello guys, and here we are. So this is the first video to get you through the weekend. I might, this probably will be a little sort of 15-minute videos because that's the most you can record on the platform I'm using. But we're going to start with product of prime factors, and I'll kind of talk around the topic. So what I might do is do things to the left hand side and leave myself space on the right, maybe to write things in if I want to. So product of prime factors, I don't want to say very much, guys. These are your prime factors, okay? Maybe 11, but unlikely, okay? With 700, I thought it was quite nice. I'd love them to be that nice to you. You could do 2 times 50. I'm doing 5 times 20. Then you could go 5 times 4, 2 times 2. There might be other ways. And every time I'm trying to put a prime number into it, I haven't even needed to use any bus stop division there, but you possibly will, okay? So what mistakes have I seen people make? I've seen people put plus here, okay? But it's times, there are 2 2s, 2 5s, and 1 7. Now, I could ask you here, is this, I haven't, right? But I could ask, is this a square number? And in this case, no, it's not a square number. And the reason it's not a square number is because we've got 2 squared, we've got 5 squared, we've got even numbers here and here, but we've only got 1 7, okay? So to make it a square number, it would need another 7 in the answer. So we'd have to times this by 7. We'd have to times the 700 by another 7 to make it a square number. And on that note, is this a square number? No, it's not a square number because it has an odd indice, right? If it was 24 or 26, it would be a square number. Chaps, at that point, let's just mention LCM, okay? If it says, what's the LCM? And I'll give you 2 numbers here, for example, 12 and 40. I don't know if they're very good examples, to be honest with you, right? Probably not. Then what you need to do is start writing the times table of both. So here's the 40 times table, okay? Because the LCM is the lowest common multiple. I'd like to think I'm going to get there pretty soon, and I'm not, right? But you'll start going, oh, hang on a minute, I think I know what's coming here. Take your time, add in 12s. I know you'll, right? There we go. And actually it turns out that it's 120 is the LCM, okay? The other thing it could ask with this question, because I am going to give you as much info as I can, the only other thing that could be attached to a product of prime is HCF, highest common factor, okay? So if I said, what's the highest common factor of 700 and, I don't know, 105, right? Then I would need, I've done the tree for 700, it's here, but I'd now, in part B, I'd need to do the tree for 105. I can see that 5 will go into it. If I do a little bust up, I'll see that's 21 times, and that's 21 is 3 times 7, which are both prime, okay? So the HCF are, what are the common factors? What are the numbers that are common to both, okay? So there's a 7 in here, which is also in here. There's a 3 in here, but no 3 in this one. And there's a 5 in here and also a 5 in here. So we can pull those out. And by multiplying the common factors, we get the highest common factor. So the biggest number that goes into 700 and into 105 is 35. So that's kind of where we're at with that question. Ratio, ladies and gentlemen, and angles in a triangle. Well, we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180. We also know a little bit more about triangles than that. We know that if it's an isosceles triangle, these two here would be equal, okay? But they still add to 180 inside the triangle, but we'd have 2 equal angles here. It's not isosceles, so we probably got 3 different angles here. So the first thing I'd be doing to find A and B is taking 25 away from 180, okay? And then I'm told that the angles A and B are in the ratio, sorry, I will need to go back up, are in the ratio 2 to 3. So 2 parts to 3 parts. So I need to share what's left in the ratio 2 to 3. I use, well, the technique we use is add. So we add We add the 2 and the 3. We share the 155 into that many parts. Again, probably going to need a bus stop. It's 31. And multiply. Add, divide, and multiply. And we'll do 31 times 2, which is 62 for that one, and 31 times 3, which is 93 for that one. Again, that's more a ratio question. The other thing I want to say about ratio is be careful in a ratio question. Nothing to do with this question. If you're being told, for example, share 155 in the ratio 1 to 2, that's what you would do. However, if you were told one of the answers, for example, when something is split in the ratio 2 to 3, the larger share ends up being 155, right? Then you'd have to go, oh, okay, right? What I've got to work out here, how many times 3 goes into 155, okay, whatever that is. Don't actually know if that doesn't even go into it. Better number than that. Let's keep the number small. So let's say the larger share ends up being 24, keep it simple. Then we can see that 3 goes into 24 8 times, and we'd have to times that by 8. So it's a slightly different method if you're told one of the answers. Okay? So they are the kind of 2 ratio questions if we get ratio. Standard form. All right. In this case, we're jumping down the number. All right, so it's be 4.2 times 10, and we've taken 4 jumps down the number. If we were jumping up the number, for example, this, and we'd be going from here, and we jump 1, 2, 3, 4 up the number. So big numbers have positive indices on the 10, and little numbers like 0.000 have negative numbers there. Okay. Dividing and multiplying, do it in standard form. So if you're dividing, we're going to divide these numbers, right? Might need a bus stop again if it's division. Remainder 1, that's 3.6. And if we're dividing, we're taking away the little numbers. But in this case, we're actually taking away a negative. We're taking away -2. So because we're taking away a negative, we end up adding these, and that becomes 8. So if you're multiplying or dividing, do it in standard form. And remember, if you're multiplying standard forms, you multiply the numbers and add the little numbers. Here we're dividing, so we divide the numbers and take away the little numbers. However, if we're adding or taking away standard form, we need to do that as numbers. We need to times this by 10 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And this other number times 10 is 62, times 10, times 10, times 10. Big mistake here, put in the 6 under the 4. Line up from the right-hand side. 0, 0, 0, 2, 6. Now we can take these away or add them if it was an add question. Not. Borrow from there, which look, I'm not teaching you how to take away at this point. And then put your answer back into standard form. Venn diagrams. Love it. Love me a Venn diagram. Excuse me. Okay. 30 rugby supporters are going in here. So whatever we do here, I expect there to be a total of 30 people included. Okay. The big word in a Venn diagram is only. If I'm told they only do something, I can put that number inside that circle. But if I'm not told only, then I have to factor in the middle. So 12 say they can sing both songs. That's easy. 18 say they can sing Bread of Heaven. Not only, there's no only in that, okay? So that 18 is everyone in that circle, including the 12 I've already put in. So there's only 6 there, making 18 in that circle. 5 say they can't sing either song. And then I'm missing a number in here for Hen Lad Van Adai, but I'm told there are 30 rugby supporters. So I'm up to 23 already, so there must be another 7 in there to make it up to 30. Okay, there's lots of lines for workings out, for adding and taking away, but really we don't need them there. And then a probability question. What is chosen at random? What is the probability that they can sing Hen Lad Van Adai? Well, if the word only was in here, then it would be 7 out of the 30 people can only sing Hen Lafynadau. But because the word only is not there, there are 19 that can sing it. So that is the correct answer here. So just watch out for that word only. And I have nothing else to add to that one. Okay. Straight lines, perpendicular lines, straight line graphs, etc. It's all based around mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y. We call it the y-intercept, where it cuts through, basically where it cuts through the y-axis, be that up there or beneath. 0 could be anywhere, okay? So in this one here, the gradient is at 2.5 and the y-intercept is c. In this one, the gradient is 5 and the y-intercept is -2. In this one, the gradient is 0.4 and the y-intercept is -4. In here, the gradient is minus 0.4 and the y-intercept is -2. And in this one, it doesn't say y equals, it says 2y equals. So I'll need to half everything on that side, okay? And it asks me which are parallel. Parallel means same gradient, so which two have the same gradient? Am I missing something? What am I missing, guys? Oh, sorry. Right, sorry, I'm not going to restart. It's which one is parallel to this line. Well, I haven't done this line yet. So, again, because I want y equals, I've got to half both this side. Thank goodness for that. That was a bit... which one is parallel to that? Well, it's actually the very first one there. Right. The problem with the last one, it looks like it is, but it's got a minus, so it's going in the wrong direction. It's going down rather than up, so it's not parallel. And then, which one of these represents a line that intersects the line on the y-axis? What a strange way to say which one has the same y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept of this line is -5. Which other one has got a y-intercept of -5? This one here. Does. Chaps, if you're... Oh, no, I'll come on to it later. I was going to say how to draw, but be careful about on these, and we mentioned this in our last-minute revision, that if you're asked, I don't know, what's the equation for this line, there's two things you need to know. You need to know where does it cut the y-axis. You also need to know for every step across, how far up or down does this line go, okay? So let's pretend in this case that this line goes down 2 for a step across, and that number there is 4, then the equation of this line would be y equals -2x, which is the gradient, plus 4, which is the y-intercept. So you might have that to do as well. You're very good at this, guys, I've got to say. Right, really, really good. I'm not sure this is the best one again. However, we've just got to plonk this number in here. Okay, so 7 minus, and in brackets 3 squared. 3 squared is 9, so it's 7 minus 9, which is -2 for that one. Okay, here's what we've got to remember here, right? We've got to be careful of squaring negative numbers. I am going to add something here. So this is 7 minus, then the substitution, -1 squared. However, -1 squared is +1. -2 squared is 4. -3 squared is 9. They are the same as 1 squared, 2 squared, and 3 squared, because a minus times a minus makes a plus. So actually, this is 7 minus, and when I work that out, it's 1. So the answer is 6. Okay. Interestingly, and usually, because it's going to be U-shaped upside down, more N-shaped than U-shaped, right? So it goes -2. Where's my pen? -2, 3, right? Where on my scale, I'm going up every 2 squares is 1, so 1, 2, 3. -1, 6. 0, 7. Sorry if I'm slightly out. My eyesight isn't great. Back to 6. Back to 3. And then down to -2 and down to -9, right? So I can't actually see it on this bit. So then that's me trying to draw on this thing. And try and go through all the points, and then it'll go down to -2 and -9, and you can do that, okay? In fact, I probably should do it, shouldn't I? So down to -2, and then down to -9, not my finest effort. Okay, they record this in 15-minute chunks. So if it doesn't quite slot together very nicely, my apologies about that. What I was about to say was they sometimes do a part B, which will ask you, what are the two x values where this graph, which we have just drawn, intersects with another line? And the other line might be something like y equals 4, right? So I would have to go to y equals 4, which is there, and draw the line straight across. Sorry about how bad, I should use a ruler. Right, so draw the line y equals 4 and find where the two graphs intercept. Now, because of my terrible drawing of both things, these are not quite in as they should be. However, my answers then would be minus 1.7. That's one of the intercept, and the other intercept here, okay, I'm going to go there, right, is 1.6. Probably should be 1.7 or vice versa. The other one should be minus 1.6. For symmetrical purposes, but you'd get away with that, no problem at all. So be prepared to draw a horizontal line like y equals something, and then look for those intercepts as well. The other thing I was going to mention there, because it's so important, this sort of stuff is right easier, right? We've got to get these marks. Is if we were substituting into something like this, right? If I substituted in, for example, minus 3 in here. I'm thinking of the things. This has nothing to do with this question. I'm just looking at how I would put that number in there and in there and work this out, okay? Then you do the indice first. So minus 3 squared is 9, right? So that becomes 18. And then 7, because this is a plus 7 times in a minus 3. Well, a positive times a minus means that this is minus 21. So the answer to that would be minus 3. So just check in. If you're not happy with this, go to DIY Math. Look for what are called quadratic graphs over the weekend. All right. Or look back in the Bible for paper 1 and see what you can find. And try some more of those substitution ones. And just check that they do look right, normally that shape, but in this case, that shape. But either way, they should be quite smooth. If they don't look right, the chances are you've got one of your answers wrong, okay? Basic algebra, right? Well, reasonably, I say basic, it's not that basic, but factorize. It's not a quadratic, it's two terms, it's going to be a single bracket. It's not a difference of two squares, right? There are things I can take out, okay? I can take out the number 3, I can take out an x. What am I left with? 4x plus y. Okay, expanding a single bracket, 4 times both these things, I got 12x minus 20. I am flying through basic algebra, right? Linear equations, I want positive x's. So let's move the x's to the left-hand side and move the numbers to the right-hand side. So I end up with 8x, and the minus 3x comes over as plus 3x, and on this side 17 plus 38. Giving me 11x equals 55, and then giving me 55 divided by 11, which is an answer of 5. Okay, they would probably potentially hide the linear equation in a worded question quite a lot of the time, okay? So have a look for things where they say, this is this, this is this, and this is this bit of algebra, and they add up to this, right? So for example, John is X years old. Megan is 3x plus 7 years old. And Bob is 2x minus 5 years old. And their total age is 112. I don't know. Right, might not work, but okay, we'll go with it. So what you'd go is, okay, so John's age plus Megan's age plus Bob's age equals 112, and that's how they hide the linear equation. And you go, oh, hang on a minute, that's 6x plus 2 equals 112. Take the plus 2 over as a minus 2 and divide that by 6, which it doesn't, right? But just to give you an idea. Another thing that they sometimes hide these in is angles questions. So we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180, but they could call that one x, and call that one 4x plus 20, and call that one minus, I don't know, 15. And you'll go, oh, right, okay, x plus 4x plus 20 plus 3x minus 15. And they haven't had to tell you this because you know, oh, I can't write in front of the room, page, that they equal 180, and very much the same thing. Then you can solve your linear equations. A couple more things for this one. Right, guys, I don't know whether to, yeah, this is a C grade question, and you'll see why in a minute, all right? Expand the bracket, okay? We're trying to make x the subject of the formula. The only thing with x is this. This does not have a subject in it. It needs to go over there. 7y minus 3 minus 2y. Actually, that can be simplified. I should take the 2y away from the 7y. Can't do anything with the minus 3. I don't want 2x. I need to divide all of that side by 2, okay? What later on in the paper, if you get one of these, it's likely to be an A and A star one, right? And that will involve factorizing because you will have two things that have the subject in them, right? So in an A or A star one, and there may be one later on, you might end up with something like make x the subject of the formula, and you end up with something like that, right? At that point, you'd have to take the x. You'd have to factorize that and take the whole bracket underneath there, but that would not be in the first half of the paper because we're now into A and A star. It's the difference being there are two subject terms, right, that need factorizing rather than the one on the that you've seen just before is one subject term. Okay, right. Inequalities. You can see the word. Right, that's what we're looking for. Inequality, inequality, inequality. We're going to make solving inequalities, but I want to start with an inequality like this. Find all the integers that make this work. Integers are whole numbers, right? So what numbers can I put instead into n and keep my answer between 11 and 17? So for example, if I swapped n for a 4, well, that would be 8, which isn't bigger than 11 and less than 17, right? If I swap n for a 5, it's 10. Again, it's not in the right zone. But if I swap n for a 6, oh, I get 12. Now that works. 12 is between 11 and 17. And a 7, 14, that works. Oh, and an 8, 16, that works. So the integers that will make this inequality work are 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's one type of inequality question, right? The other one is just solving inequalities, for example. Right? But you solve those like you would solve anything. You take that over as plus 3, right? And then divide that. All right, and you can't, because 7 doesn't go into 44, just leave it like that. So there's two types, or we get these wordy ones. And in this wordy one, we need to list our people. So in this one, we've got Rashid and Ivion. And Rashid has n sheep, and Ivion has 4 times as many. And Rashid buys 17 more sheep, but Ivion loses or sells 8 of his sheep, okay? Now, I'm going to slightly change this because somebody did this the other day and I thought, yeah, that probably makes it easier actually. I would say Ivion has more sheep than Rashid. I would put the person who has the most on the left. So if Ivion has the most, I would put him first and he has more. Whoever has the most goes on the left, and then you can write is greater than that, okay? That allows you then to bring the n's this side and the numbers the other side. So we take that n away from 4n and get 3n and add that 8 onto the 17 and we get 25. Then we can divide that 25 by 3, and just like I said stop here, stop there. N is bigger than that. But then it says, okay, in that case, find that if n is bigger than that, what's the lowest n can be? Well, n could be anything bigger than that. But what is that? It's like 8 and a bit. So this is like 8. So if n is bigger than 8 point whatever that is, right, then the lowest n can be is 9. Okay? or some parallel lines just in case, right? As if you're given in parallel lines, this group here is the same as this group down here. So if that's 113, that's 113, right? Take 113 away from 180, and you get 67, sorry, 67, right? And you put that there and there. So they add, the top adds to 180, the bottom adds to 180, and all together they make 360. And then copy that down here, 113, 113, 67, and 67, okay? So just, yeah, that's angles with parallel lines, okay? And so we've done that. Let's move on. Did this one in class, but okay. Right, what's the circle theorems on display here? Just going to check again. My apologies, how long I've left. I've got about 4 minutes, which is fine. Let me come back to this page. Okay, so the rules I'm seeing in force here, I'm going to talk a lot about circle theorems, are the party hat rule. And the party hat rules are two tangents from a point. In this case, the point is P, are equal length. And that's how you describe the party hat rule. In this case, if that's 12, that's 12. The other tangent circle theorem is, if you've got a tangent, which is like this, which is a line outside the circle that just touches the circle somewhere, and then you connect that, what's that happening? You connect that to there, right? That makes 90 degrees. And the rule is a tangent and radius make, or better, meet at 90 degrees. And that is it for this question, right? Because it asks you, what's the length of PA? Well, PA is 12, and the reason is the two tangents from P are equal in length. Then it asks, what is angle PAO, which is this angle here? And it says, what's the size of angle PAO? That's 90 degrees, and the reason is because of that. And then it asks you to do the area of it. Well, if that's 4, if that radius is 4, that radius is 4. So this triangle is base times height divided by 2. And this triangle is base times height divided by 2. And we can just add those together and get that, okay? However, I want to talk quickly about if instead of connecting that to the center, they had connected, have I got a different color? Because that would be maybe useful so you can see what the difference. They had connected them straight across, right? Then I haven't got 90 degree angles here and here. They're not 90 anymore because they're not connected to the center, right? However, what I have made the blue triangle here now, which is there, there, and there. Because these are the same length, they're both 12, this is an isosceles triangle. So what I could do is tell you this is, for example, 36 and ask you for one of these blue angles. Well, that sum would be 180 take away 36, which is 144, and then half it. So that one is 72, and that one is 72. So that's another way we could do that circle theorem, okay? Other circle theorems for you to remember are the ones that are inside the circle, which are the arrowhead, and I'm going to do it a slightly different way, which connects to the center. Oh, goodness me, like that. Right, and the arrowhead is that the angle there, the angle at the center is double the angle, and rather than say the top, we'll call it on the circumference. Okay, we've got the cyclic quadrilateral, which is the four-sided shape. And this one is that opposite angles add up to 180. And the other one I'd be aware of then is the bow tie, right? Which is the angle on the circumference at the top are equal and the angles at the bottom are equal. So if that's 42, then that's 42. And if that's 31, then that's 31. Okay, and you would just say the angles at the circumference at the top are equal, or the angles on the circumference at the bottom are equal. There is an A and A star one called the alternate segment theorem. I'm going to next question in our booklet is look, basic perimeter and area, not something we've revised because it's just stuff you've done year after year after year, right? Just for your, again, because I'm just trying to give as much info as I can. A rectangle or a square, the area would be length times width, okay? A triangle, a right angle triangle is base times height divided by 2, right? A circle is pi times the radius squared, right? These are all area formulas, okay? But the interesting one, which you don't have to learn because it's in the formula sheet, is a trapezium. If it's a trapezium, you can use half a plus b times h, where a is the top, b is the bottom, and h is the height. But it actually is in the formula sheet, and it shows you, it goes, that's a, that's b, and that's h. Okay, so you don't need to learn that. That can be just, if you see a trapezium, you can just jump straight and use that. Bearing in mind that that's not times this time, that's add, okay? A lot of people come out and go, I time, yeah, no, copy it properly. It's a plus b times h, and then half it, okay? So in this question, they tell me that the perimeter, which is the distance around the square, is 28. So the distance around this square is 28. So if I divide that by 4, I get 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters. They then tell me that the area of this triangle is 35 centimeters squared, but the area is base times height divided by 2. I know the base, but I don't know the height, right? So 7 times the height, which I don't know, divided by 2 is 35. A lot of you don't use algebra for this. You probably just do it like more as a picture in your brain rather than algebra, right? But however, what we're doing here is we've got to double the area, take the divide 2 up there as a 70 and divide it by the 7. So the height of that needs to be 10, which is exactly what the question asks for. It asks how long is DE. So the DE is 10 centimeters, okay? Or let's have a look at some circles, or in this case, a semicircle, right? A semicircle is half a circle, and its perimeter. So remember, for the perimeter or the circumference of a circle is pi times diameter. Cherry pie is delicious. And the one I mentioned up above is the area, which is this. Well, in this case, I need this one, right? So the circumference of this circle would be pi times the diameter, which is exactly what they give me, right? I do not have a calculator, so I need to be able to do this, right? 8 fours are 32. 8 ones are 8, add the 3 is 11. 8 threes are 24, add the 1 is 25. Okay, but that would be all the way around this circle, would be 25.12. But we only have half a circle, that doesn't exist. So we have to cut that in half, which is, oh, I should have, 12 point, what is this? 6, 56, sorry. My brain wasn't working for a minute there, okay? So that becomes 12.56. And the reason they haven't used the word circumference, the reason that they've used the word perimeter, is if we've sent a little person walking around this circle, not only would he walk the 12.56 to get around there, but he'd then have to walk back to get to the start. So he'd actually walk along the diameter. So we'd need to add another 8 onto there to get 20.56. And if we had something like the volume of a cylinder, remember a volume is area times depth. So in a cylinder, the area is the area of the circle, and then the depth is how deep, in this case, that goes, okay? So we do pi times the radius, which they've given me, squared, times the depth, or what they've called in this question the height, okay? But it says, because it's a non-calculated paper, leave your answer in terms of pi. So in this case, I don't need to do a sum like this. It's just like leave it as pi. So that's 9. 9 times 7 is 63, but don't bother timesing it by 3.14. Leave your answer with just pi in it, okay? Be prepared for, like, you know, if it was this shape, same thing, but the area would be the area of a triangle. Then you would times it by this depth here. Okay? And a cuboid then exactly the same. So you're all right with basic shapes like that. Now, not my favorite, okay? However, remember that if they give you the mean, if you times it by the number of numbers, if that makes sense, the number of numbers, that will give you the total that they add up to, right? That's not relevant here. If they give you the median, that's the number in the middle. And if they give you the mode, that's the most common, okay? And if they give you the range, that's the biggest equal to the smallest. However, for the median, the numbers have to be in order, which these are not, right? So the mode and median of all 7 numbers, there's one missing, are both the same. So if we start putting these in order, 5, 9, 11, 18, 20, and 23, at the moment, there is no mode. And at the moment, the median would lie between 11 and 18 and would be quite difficult to find out. So what we want is to add another number into this list so that there is a mode, but it's also the number that's in the middle, right? So to create a mode, either that number needs to be 11, so that now the mode is 11 and the median is 11, or the other option is to make that 18, because then the mode would be 18 and the median would be 18. Okay, so a little bit of problem solving with averages. I think you'll be fine with that. One extra number is added to the following list of 3 numbers. The mean of the new list of 4 numbers is 1 less than the mean of that. Okay, so the mean of this is 13 plus 8 plus 6, which is 27, divided by 3, which is 9. When I add a 4th number, that is 1 less. So the mean of the 4 numbers equals 8. Therefore, chaps, what we said earlier is if we know the mean and we know that there are 4 numbers, these 4 numbers must add up to 32. Okay, but these 3 already add up to 27. So the extra number must be a 5, because if we add 5 on to this 27, we'll then get the 32 that we need for that mean. Okay, so just remember the mean. If you times the mean by the number of numbers, you get the total for them, okay? Right, love this one because that and is in bold. And I was like, if it's bold, it probably means that it's there for a reason, right? It's there to kind of make sure you don't miss it. So what it's saying here is, can I zoom out a little bit maybe? No, I can't. Okay, well, we'll just have to go back and forth. What it's saying here is the probability of event A occurring is 0.6. That is on there, right? Now, too many people saw that and just put it there, right? But this is saying the probability of event A occurring, and in the middle here is the word and, which is a times. In fact, what they're telling you is the probability of both those things occurring is 0.48. So what do you have to times 6 by to get 48? That is 0.8. Okay, now we can fill it in. So be careful. They may tell you an answer. They may tell you, right, when you multiply these, you get that. So this will be 0.4. And this will be 0.2. And because the right-hand side is the B occurring, you copy the top branch down onto the bottom branch. And then you might get a part B, which asks you to do a different time sum. Calculate the probability that neither event A or event B occur. In other words, this happens, A does not occur, and B does not occur. And I'm so glad they've given me these numbers, because this is the one that will go wrong. Because a lot of people here are going to put that's 0.8, and it's not. It is 8, but there's one number after the point there, and one number after the point there. So I need 2, right, in my answer, so it'll be 0.08. So that is 0.08. If they asked for this one, it would be 0.32. If you asked for this one, it would be 0.12, 6 times 2. And then the top one is 40. They told us the top one, didn't they? They told us it was 48. And if you add 48, 12, 32, and 8 together, you get 100. In this case, 100%. Okay, so just be careful of 2 small decimals times in that you might have to put an extra 0 in, like 0.08. And that'll do for now. Tomorrow and Sunday, we will go into